Welcome to The Mental Game. I'm Ken Reid, and this show has been made in partnership with Movember, who are on a mission to change the face of men's health. In this show, we'll be talking to a series of athletes about the biggest challenges they've faced in their careers and how the mental pressures of being an elite athlete have affected their ability to perform on the highest stages of sport. Now, this is particularly important to me. I've suffered from anxiety and depression for a long time, and I know all too well about the effect it can have on your everyday life. As we hear about the obstacles our athletes have had to overcome, we'll also be exploring some of the things they've done to focus on their mental fitness, both on and off the playing field. We're starting with Vancouver Canucks forward Tyler Motte, who was living his childhood dream, yet was struggling with something so much bigger.
Being so focused on my career and playing hockey and so driven in that way, I kind of let the other side of it slip. I lost that drive towards, my goals in life, and not just as a hockey player, but as a person. Like any kid growing up, you want to play the NHL, you want to reach that goal, and I'm lucky enough to have accomplished that. And I was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks in the 4th round. Made the team out of camp, got sent down about halfway through, and you have a bit of a feeling that your dream and your goal has kind of been taken away from you. In the back of your mind, you're wondering if you'll ever get back. I got a phone call that I had been traded. My only year in Columbus, I was again traded to Vancouver.
He started to make comments along the lines of how he wasn't super motivated by a lot of things. He wasn't feeling excitement about things that previously excited him. And he was really irritable. And I didn't quite understand it or really know why until he made one comment that said, "I don't really feel much of anything right now."
So it's normal life for all of us to get rejected from time to time in your relationship, at work, when you're trying to perform and it doesn't go so well. It's really something we all deal with. It's not unusual. It can really get you down and really hurt a lot. It can even lead you into being really depressed.
Have a look, have a look.
I noticed that I would kind of suppress a lot of my feelings and thoughts. I didn't deal with a lot of things.
Many men have learned to be quiet about it, to suffer in silence, and that it often, the message they give themselves is that in order to be strong, in order to be a real man, I shouldn't have mental illness, I shouldn't be sad, and they keep it to themselves. They can separate themselves from their friends, from their families, their partners, and their children, and become more and more isolated and alone in their experience.
It was several months, years actually. It was just a gradual adjustment to him accepting going to see help.
I remember going into my first meeting, and shortly thereafter I was officially diagnosed with anxiety and depression. It was hard. Maybe it put me a step back rather than a step forward at first, but once I took the time to understand and realize that it's a diagnosis, it's an illness. It's just as much an injury as anything else, although it's sometimes hard to see. Once I got over that hurdle, I think, there's a bit of no looking back. There's a bit of the mindset of you're gonna take this head on, just like you have, other obstacles in your life. I'm not a big reader, never have been, but I found it's something that does help. It allows my mind to be doing something else. I like to learn things, so it helps in that way too. It's just some mental stimulation. Most of the times on day off, I'll just try and go out for a walk, whether it's just around town for a couple blocks or get out of the city, or when I'm back home, just find an area where it's quiet. You get to take in the noises, sounds, sights around you, and just embrace it. You kind of get to separate yourself a little bit from your day-to-day life, and you get to kind of enjoy some of the little things that I don't think we appreciate enough.
There's so many new recent studies really showing us, surprisingly, that even the smells in nature, maybe something in the air, the way the visuals affect our brain are really engaging brain chemicals to actually help calm your nervous system and reduce some of the stresses throughout the entire body. So I'd encourage anyone to go for a daily walk. It's so easy to do, especially in times like these.
All right.
He's become more communicative, but it's a process. It's not one getting help and then you're done. It's a constant work in progress throughout your whole life, and it's so impressive to me that he had come so far to acknowledge, to accept it, and to work at it, and then to want to make an impact in others. It's just demonstrative of how incredible of a person he is that I already knew, but it's him another way that he shows those characteristics.
I love you. Good seeing you. Bye. Looking back to where I was and where I am and appreciating the person I've become, it's hard to do. You never like to think of yourself in that way, although for a while that was me. To be here today as the same person but in a different space is awesome. I'm proud of myself, which I don't say enough either, but yeah, I'm happy. And it's not every day do I get to say that to myself, but I have come a long way, and it hasn't been easy. And for those of you out there that are in a tough spot, it gets better. It really does, and I hope everyone gets to find that space.
It's incredible to see how something as simple as reading a couple of pages of a book can really make a positive change in how you're feeling. For me, even taking a walk in nature can help clear my mind. He was seen as can't miss, one of the best arms in the game with Hall of Fame potential. When things went sideways for Rick Ankiel, many observers just called it the thing, a mental block. This is a story like no other.
I'd have a nightmare about the ball wouldn't come out of my hand or people are laughing at me. I'm telling myself this is effing crazy, but those thoughts are still happening because you just want to be who you were. Going to the ballpark with the pressure of that, I was completely lost.
Potential for Rick Ankiel? When you look back at pitchers who pitched that well, that young, they have extraordinary careers, if not Hall of Fame type careers.
I go to throw a fastball and I throw it off the backstop, calls a changeup, I throw that off the backstop. Felt like the ball just wasn't coming out of my hands. Everything would be fine through my mechanics, and then right when I get to the release point, I would have a miniature seizure. It was like I'd black out, and then it almost felt like I would look and, where'd the ball go? My whole life had to change. I needed to do it for me. Baseball just wasn't gonna be a part of me anymore, and that was a really tough decision to come to. I felt like this giant weight come off, and I felt like for the first time in 5 years that I took the deepest breath that I'd taken in a long time. This inner peace wave came over me, and it was just a beautiful moment. Scott Boras calls, says, hey, what do you think about being an outfielder? So I find a bat, I'm standing in my living room, nobody's there. I'm taking practice swings by myself, and I get to a point where I'm visualizing, I see myself making it back to the big leagues, and I let myself feel what it would be to hit a home run in the big leagues, and I visualized the crowd going crazy, and this feeling came over me where I felt like this is right, this is it.
VanCouver out to deep right field. It's gone! First game back in the major leagues. Remarkable.
When he hit that home run, it brought me to tears, I must say. And he didn't have to deal with the pressure of trying to gain that feel for the ball. And ironically, from the outfield, he was tremendously accurate and had an amazingly strong arm.
I was having fun with it. There was nothing, I didn't have that stress or anxiety about I need to throw a strike. One of the things that has really helped me is routine, setting goals, and not just long-term goals, but daily goals.
It's really important that you chunk it down into manageable actions. It doesn't feel like a huge task, a tedious job. The easier, the simpler, the better.
Like jig it real slow in case there's some fish cruising along the wall.
So that works for me. Something that gives me motivation to get to that point of the day. I'm not going to win every day, but if I can win more days than not, well, then I have something to build on, right? That positive reinforcement.
It is a lot of pressure. I definitely had to have a switch in mentality of no more blowing up, no more letting the sport get the best of me. I definitely was a bit of a hothead. I tried to stay to myself, but I would blow up. I did break my hand in the minor leagues punching the wall, being fed up with striking out or doing some dumb stuff. But those things only happen once in your life, and they're okay one time, as long as they don't happen again. And that happened to me during the lockdown. I was able to meditate daily. I would sit there for hours just thinking, just being off in my own world, and it was great. I feel like I've changed a lot, and I've changed for the better. Since I've been home in this off season, I've been able to, write my own stuff, not necessarily for composing's sake, but for my own, and just kind of express my energy in a different platform on a piano rather than through conversation. And it's really just a different form of an energy outlet for me. I feel great. I feel like sometimes my mind's buzzing and I'm seeing keys that I haven't seen before, and then I'm hitting chords that I shouldn't be landing, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool.
You can use it as an expression of an emotion. So you can pound on it when you're angry. You can play softly when you're in a romantic spot. You can use it to express. It takes you to another place in your brain. It's moving from the neural pathways to another neural pathway. So it's giving you a break, and it may give you an understanding that this is the place that you would prefer to be, and what would it take to stay there for longer periods of time, even when you're not playing the piano.
Everything that's important to me is I feel like is more of a topic of conversation rather than confrontation. I feel like I matured. I feel like I grew up.
Life gets tough, it gets frustrating, but just picking up an instrument and letting loose or finding a moment to slow down can really go a long way. It wasn't all that long ago that when an athlete would have a bad game, they could just take a shower and move on to the next one. But social media has since made that impossible in the worst way.
I just didn't want to show my face. What I'm going out there and doing is embarrassing, and if anybody had a clue of what I'm going through right now, you wouldn't wish that upon anyone. My first couple of years in the big leagues went pretty good. 11 was the best year of my baseball career. Made the All-Star game, came, I think, 10th in the Cy Young, which is pretty cool for me. And then in 12, I started to feel, a bit of pain on my knees, but didn't think anything of it. I was like, I'm rolling 10-1, but something deep inside me wasn't sitting very well, because I had a high ERA, and somehow that was messing with me mentally. After that, I don't think I won a game till September is when I won my 11th game. And now I was really getting my butt kicked. The more I kept trying to dig out of this hole, the more I kept burying myself.
It was sort of at the beginning of when things started to go downhill for him. You start questioning, what the future of your career is like. And when that's all you know, it's like, oh no, like, is my career over? And then it turns into, is my life over kind of thing.
In the clubhouse, it's like, oh, did you see what such and such wrote? So it's not that hard to turn on your phone, go to the app, and turn it on and see what somebody wrote about it. You go on there and you read some of the stuff, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. From death threats to hoping your family dies to all that stuff. Man, this ain't so much fun. You know, this is giving anybody just to throw crazy shots at you without them knowing what's going on behind closed doors.
That criticism can really hurt because that can really drive you down to a negative spiral of self-worth if you start buying into it, believing it, and then doom scrolling about it. This sort of negative thinking and focusing on the negative begins a cognitive cascade or a spiral down. And then you start ignoring the positive, you start personalizing, and then you start catastrophizing. So it's not just that one thing, you start predicting a negative future about everything.
I was in the middle of a big contract and I gotta go out there and prove who I am and why they gave me this money. And next thing you know, I had bad knees, left and right knees. A couple years later, in 14, I ended up having surgery. I'd sit there and I'd cry. You know, there was days where I'd cry and I was like, why is this happening to me? Why?
I was there for some pretty dark nights, trying to just help him gain back that perspective and help him stop spiraling, because it's so easy, you know, when it's just happening over and over again, it's very easy to feel defeated.
Everything just kind of snowballed towards the end of my career, and I was like, you know what, I don't think I can do this anymore.
It probably wasn't until Sebastian was born, I think that's really when things started to turn around for him, not even necessarily baseball-wise, but just his perspective. It helped him gain so much perspective that there was life beyond baseball, that there was more to life than a game. It brought him that purpose.
If a man is involved in his child's first year of life, and if he, in the early weeks to months, holds that child for 15 minutes, his whole hormones respond differently than if he doesn't. And he begins to have a sense of connection to that child that will bring him back to that place of comfort and that sense of belonging. Then as our children grow older, it's the same. We can begin to teach them skills, sports, and it's a deep sense of connection and purpose and value. It's a great moment of healing, of repair, of wholeness, of good health and well-being.
Being a dad, I mean, that's the biggest thing that kind of gets me away from everything. I mean, seeing those two boys growing up, I love spending time with my family. Maybe my destiny was just, hey, you got a taste of it, you did it, you were at the top of the top, but the bottom of the bottom has shown me way more lessons than anything else. I can now teach my kids in the way I raise them and letting them know that, hey, if you ever fall down, don't overanalyze everything. It's okay, you know, it's okay to fall and get back up and dust yourself off and get on going.
It's every kid's dream, playing the sport you love and getting paid to do it. Then comes the grind and the lows of losses and the reality that you can't control everything. So what happens when the fun gets sucked out of the game? This is the story of Stanley Cup champion Ryan O'Reilly.
When you aren't winning and you don't feel like you're going to win, and it's a big part of it, it can be very hard. It can be very difficult.
I feel throughout the year I've lost the love of the game multiple times.
When I said that, it kind of meant, yeah, like just it wasn't fun coming to the rink. You know, you're there, you're on edge. You know, everyone's on edge. The coaching staff, no one's working well together. There's so much frustration, and my impact was obviously crucial, and we just couldn't have success. First thing when I got here to St. Louis, we struggled. I remember talking to my dad quite a bit in this time, and I remember being like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't, I win?
He even said to me, everywhere I go, I feel like I'm a cancer, and he was giving himself, an impossible challenge and taking on the responsibility for winning and losing. It was on the father's trip that we got to spend some really quality time together. I asked him some really important things, I think, that really he self-evaluated and really understood what was going on inside him. And one of the ways he finds himself back to his game is through music. It frees the mind from the pressure of your sport or the office.
Music's always been a great escape for myself and a great tool. Like sometimes people have that person they talk to, and that's the way they get things out. Music was that thing that really helped me kind of get inside myself and see what's going on and help me release it somehow, which was so good for my mental health.
He got back to just focusing on the things that he can do, the details of his game at the highest quality, and keep his nose in his own business.
So it really helped me realize that, I have to stick with this. I have to be a leader. I have to continue to not let this affect me and get back into the work, get back into the little details, and not be worried about the result. He said to be patient with it. There's so many new players on this team. It's going to take a while to come together. You can see that it's there, but the consistency will come with it, and eventually you guys will do great things. The best things in life, they're going to be tough, they're going to be hard, but they're also rewarding as well.
If you're trying to teach yourself a musical instrument, play the guitar, maybe when you learn that first chord and you can do it, you go out and you buy yourself a music book of the favorite band you've had, so you have that music, and you save doing that until you are ready to have that first little chord that you figured out. Whatever it is for you, and that little reward to yourself is good job. It's kind of a patting yourself on the back.
You train your entire life. You only know one thing. All you do is eat, sleep, and breathe hockey. So what happens when that dream is crushed and in comes the realization that you need to find a new focus? This is the story of Darryl Levy.
From the day I started hockey, it was a battle to prove that I belong in the sport. You spend your whole life working for one goal. That's all you know. That's all you think about. They said to me, we're gonna let you go. It just killed me. I just said, you know what? I'm done, I got nothing left. I got nothing left. I didn't know what's next. Hockey for me has been a big part of my life, pretty much all of my life. My dream's always been to play in the National Hockey League. I tore my TFC and my ulna, and I've been playing with it for years, and finally got to a point where I needed surgery, so I had surgery. I got a call from Anaheim system to go play in Syracuse. I'm like, wait a second, how am I gonna do this? So obviously I cut off my cast, and when you want to do something your whole life, it doesn't matter. Do it over and over again. I would have cut it off again now, today, to try and do my dream. So I went and played. It was tough. I battled through it. My hand would swell up to the point where my nails would pretty much pop off my hand. Once I got released from Syracuse, I remember waiting to figure out what team I was going for next, and I went back to my gym where I train, and I'm doing my warm-up. And I get down to do a lunge and twist, and the tears just start flowing, and I kind of knew that that's it for me. I given everything I had to the game, and I knew it was time to move on. My next passion and what I always known was training. I went to a local gym. I paid the rent for a month. I had probably about $400 or $500 left in my pocket. By the time I paid for rent, I had about $50 left in the bank. Yep, that's where it was. I moved into my car, and you know, it's those were challenging times. Right in the back is where I used to park the car, my '87 Scirocco. Spent a lot of nights sleeping here. You know, there's lots of nights where it's tough and when you're alone, but once I turned the page, I just focused on that next task, which was gonna be, you know, a strength coach, gonna be an on-ice player development guy. That's what my life was gonna be. A lot of times I end up back right in my car, and it's always been my comfort zone. Open road driving, it helped me to clear my mind. It was my renaissance, my zen. I would just take that time to reflect.
Some people find moving, traveling, either on a drive or sitting on a train, an airplane, is really relaxing. Again, you're kind of nowhere special, but for some people that's really soothing and meditative as well.
Right over top, explode, drive, hit, load, push, and then drive out. I just really started off simple, focused on athletes and making them better. And then the word kind of got out from them, and they kind of spread the word, and we filled up that gym, and then put us in a position to where we are today, where you know, we've opened our own facility and moving into getting other facilities.
From day one, when I met him, I could tell how passionate he was and how driven he was. I know right away I came in pretty tough shape that summer, and he believed in me right off the hop. He put faith in me. He brought me back to the player I knew I could be, and I had a really good season my first year after training with Daryl. When you come in here, he looks at you as a person before an athlete. He knows he wants to take care of you off the ice before he takes care of you on the ice.
I want to tack back to the middle so that when I spin out, I can jab the front foot in right away. Quick attack and rip the puck, okay? I took it personally that someone's career is in my hands and their dream is in my hands. And that's so fragile. It's like a baby. It's like glass. Angle to the middle, spin, jab. Knowing what I felt, yep. I want to make sure that that person can truly feel the full extent of what their dream feels like. I want to make that dream come true for someone else. I write down a lot. I write, you know, my thoughts. I write down the things that are bothering me. I write down my dreams and aspirations, my goals. I write all this stuff down. A lot of times your thoughts are in your brain and it gets clouded. It gets clouded with the noise from outside. It gets clouded from the noise from inside. It gets clouded from everything that you have to do and deal with. So writing things down helps to, if anything, bring clarity.
We know from evidence that people that journal do better for themselves than they would if they're not journaling. So it's important to get a book, get a scribbler, get a piece of paper and a pencil and start writing. I'm feeling really crappy today. I'm sad today. So it's beginning to recognize and acknowledge that your internal landscape, the inside of you, is important, or perhaps more important than the world around you.
Whatever you did at one point, you know, take time away and just think about what else you enjoyed doing, you know, what other things brought joy to your heart.
Daryl's a real inspiration, a really special guy. We all have times of big change in our life, and it can be very stressful. In moments like this, sometimes helping yourself can be as simple as picking up a pen and writing down some thoughts to help give you clarity and the beginnings of a way forward. I want to thank all of the athletes who took the time to sit down with us, for opening up and telling their stories. I know firsthand how difficult that can be. Every journey is unique. People struggle. But I also know from my own experience that there are simple things we can adopt to help take on life's challenges. Simple first steps such as going for a walk, doing a little yoga, to playing an instrument can go such a long way. It all starts with making one small choice. Go to sportsnet.ca/thementalgame to see the full series and learn more.